Well, here we go with another one of those impromptus. Even though it's Thursday morning when I usually do these, I wasn't planning on doing a live stream this morning. It's the 15th of October, 2020. Welcome as you come in. I'm Roy Potter, and people sending me pictures. Pardon me, I didn't turn off my notifications. I'll have to check on all that later. So, at any rate, look, a couple of things that I felt like I had to do this morning. This could get me thrown off of YouTube, probably more than anything else, but I really don't care about that. I hope you all understand that that would not be the end of, oh, what am I going to do now? But what happened is that an individual that goes by the name of Jonah, at Jonah of Nineveh on Twitter, had a very righteous discourse yesterday. And is Trump Ben Mashiach? That's not quite the right term, Rolf. There's a question by people as whether he is the Mashiach ben Yosef or the Mashiach ben David. And he's neither. Okay? What the Jews and these people that are promoting him think he is, I could talk about that later, but that's not the point of this video. So, at any rate, Michael is an attorney, and he's a Sedevacantist Catholic. What that means is that he believes in Catholicism and the basic structure of that faith, but he doesn't believe that the current Pope has a right to be in that office. So that's what a Sedevacantist is, and it actually goes back several papacies ago. But at any rate, just to give you a background, and I would probably be remiss if I didn't say that obviously, well, I used to be Catholic, and technically I still am. The Catholics never excommunicated me like the Mormons did. But at any rate, I'm one who has not remained in one particular faith structure as far as, religions are concerned. I've spread out into more areas. That doesn't mean I don't have a strict belief system. It just means that I don't submit myself to those types of things. But I don't put anybody down who does. The important thing is that you, and there would be disagreements with this, I'm sure, with Michael, who goes by at Jonah of Nineveh on YouTube. He would have a strict interpretation of the Catholic doctrine wherein I do not. But that's immaterial. Those things we can get by. What happened yesterday is that he had finally had enough. He got angry and he wrote a Twitter thread that I am going to read on YouTube today. Why? Because Twitter basically locked his account and they're insisting that he give them a phone number so they can control his thoughts. That's really what this is about. The world calls evil good and good evil. And yeah, this is a sermon of sorts this morning, but it's going to go right to the heart of everything that's going on, and you'll see that. So stay tuned. The world calls evil good and good evil. And I don't care if you have religious beliefs, if you have spiritual feelings. I don't care if you believe in God or you don't. There's a standard of morality that is not negotiable. I borrowed the name of a book that I read many years ago for the title of this video. Actually, the book was written by a friend of mine, and it was called Compromise and Concession. I won't give you much more detail on it than that, but that's where this comes from. And that's what we are doing. We compromise and we concede so that we can have another day of our beer, our football, our whatever. Not that there's anything wrong with those, but if you give up truths and virtue for the pleasures, then there's a problem, because then you love pleasures more than you do the principles of God. So with that little introduction, let me read to you what this thread says, okay? So please bear with me. This usually doesn't go very well because I have to read off this little computer. Okay, so here we go. Actually, yeah, I'll read this first, then I'm going to read something he put up subsequent to this. Okay, you ready for this? Okay, let's listen to it. Again, this is from Michael, known as at Jonah of Nineveh on Twitter. The following people can get off my feed, block me, and go straight to hell. those who justify, one, Catholics saying they'd shelve their faith in favor of winning so long one is pro-life. Now, in the place of Catholics there, put in whatever religion or spiritual system or whatever you want, okay? You could say constitutionalists, you could say conservatives, you could say Christians, I don't care, okay? Just pretend like you stick the word, where you fit into the word Catholics here. Abomination treatments using chimera mice created from murdered infants, so long one is pro-life. Funding, endorsing, promoting the sodomy agenda, which God hates, so long as one is pro-life. Funding, promoting, and potentially enforcing a MAGA-vax created using murdered babies, so long as one is pro-life. Federal funding, encouraging, and mandating the COVID psyop and lockdown of this country, destroying countless lives, careers, homes, dreams, and causing the yet to be calculated increase in deaths by suicide, overdose, murder, untreated real ailments, not to mention the psychological torture and destruction of families so long as one is pro-life. You people disgust me, you compromising, degenerate hypocrites. You pompous, prideful assholes who presume to teach morality while telling people that the only thing they can do is make the fictional ends justify the actual evil means. You are why we are here, not politicians. You morally compromised, soft-minded, arrogant fools who are so afraid to be branded rigid and extreme that you've not only compromised your country and your souls, but your ability to see that you are actually consenting to some of the gravest evil humanity has ever participated in. My God, have mercy on you, because I will not. I've had it with your lunatic mental gymnastics and justifications. You're the problem. Now say something stupid so I can block you. I can't disagree with him. And I've been saying pretty much the same thing, but not as eloquently for a very long time now. Let me go back to what else he added a little later, which I think is also apropos for what we're discussing here this morning. Babies are being murdered to make a satanic, chimeric, Moloch, MAGA, mice therapeutic cure, and being promoted by the abominable beast of a liar in the White House, and you absurdly hypocritical people calling yourselves Christians give it a pass because you claim to be pro-life. How dare you people defend this? How dare you remain silent about it? How dare you consent to it? How dare you believe you will inherit eternal life without being willing to die for this issue alone? How dare you suggest that I'm pessimistic or extreme, you absolute hypocrites? He really went off, and I do not blame him at all, okay? I wanted to come on and read that this morning because hypocritical Twitter, who will allow all sorts of crap on there from child molestation to, they actually promote that. Do you realize, it's like I said, they call evil good and good evil, and why do they do that? I think most of you know. Let me turn this off. Actually, maybe I'll leave it now. I better not, because if I do that, it might interfere with the stream. So let me get out of this so that it's not online. Give me just a minute here. Pardon me. Okay, that way I've released some bandwidth here just in case there's an issue. All right, okay, there we are. So, nobody did anything about the censorship. We've been yelling at Trump and the Senate and Congress, et cetera, for a long time that this censorship had to have a lid put on it. And if you notice, there's been no action. And people will talk about all sorts of reasons why and justifications, but none of those are proper. There were ways to handle this, but what essentially has happened is the voices that call for an attempt, let's put it that way, that call for an attempt at righteousness, an attempt at good judgment, an attempt at a good, honest life with integrity and all of those good things. You talk about that, and you call people out on the carpet for doing just the opposite, and you're the enemy. Oh, it's hate speech. It's not very nice. Well, I don't care if you believe in the Bible or not, but if you see somebody out on the street trying to grab a kid and do something to them that's inappropriate, and you refuse to take action because it's not politically correct to do so, you might hurt that person's feelings that is doing this thing that you consider wrong. If that's how you're going to view it, then we're way down into the depths of hell at this point. But that's what Twitter wants you to do. Again, if you're not religious, if you're not spiritual, if you don't believe any of the scriptures, that's fine. But the philosophical lessons involved are no less important. And what am I talking about? All of the debauchery that was going on at the time of Noah. However you want to look at it. I disagree with some people saying what it was, historically and in other ways, but that's not the issue right now. The issue is there were people doing very wicked things, and there were people like Noah who called them out, and they derided him. They made fun of him. They accused him of all sorts of horrible things, and they tried, most of all, to shut him up, so that there's no voice of conscience crying from the wilderness where they've been thrown. And that's what's happened to Michael. And that's what's happened to a lot of us. So I wanted to give you that little information this morning. It's not a formal live stream in that regard, that we're not really talking about much anything else, but I had to bring this up. The whole purpose, I'm going to say it again, the whole purpose of Trump was because they couldn't get anything past the conservatives and Christians with Hillary in there. They had to get somebody in there who would present themselves as something other than what he is, manifestly so with what's happened. Pretend to do something. I just saw, as a matter of fact, I just saw them come out with their platform finally, right? What the Republican Party stands for. It's a rerun of 2016, which none of it's been done, and they always want to say, well, he can't get it done because he has too many people against him in government. Then why bother? If he can't do it, then why are you sticking to him so close? Why? Because there's nobody else but Biden? Not voting is a vote. That's your choice. But Trump has done nothing. As a matter of fact, I got to tell you this story. I wasn't going to bring this up, but there's a guy by the name of Jeffrey Doherty who has an internet show, sort of like mine here on YouTube. Unindoctrinated, I think he goes by @unindoctrinated on Twitter. And I guess he's followed me for a little while. And apparently he's unindoctrinated from religion, from spirituality. Well, maybe not spirituality, that's probably going too far. From organized religion. And I can certainly understand that. I have no issue with that whatsoever. I totally understand a position like that. However, rather than coming onto Twitter and asking me if I'd be willing to come on his show, he came on as a Jerry Springer type, and he said, if you have the brass balls, well, I want you to come on my show because the people we need to have a peer review. We need to talk about, we have to have a discourse of our belief systems, something like that. I don't remember. I could read the exact tweet. And I looked at it and I thought, that's kind of, well, let's just say I wouldn't approach somebody like that if I wanted to have them on my show. Okay, I'm not going to come from an aggressive point of view right out the gate. He kind of reminded me of a Jerry Springer in that regard. So I thought, well, who is this guy? So I went on his Twitter account, and I could see where he's coming from. And he's got a picture of himself. Actually, he looks more like Rodney Dangerfield in the picture than himself, or for that matter. Well, anyway, I'll just leave it at that. I know, well, okay, but so far I'm not real impressed with what he's trying to promote himself as here. But I still gave him the benefit of the doubt, and I went to his YouTube. And he has his program there on YouTube. You can go to Twitter and look up Jeffrey Doherty, actually it's not at Jeffrey Doherty, that's his name he goes by, I don't know if it's his real name, it probably is. At Unindoctrinated, good name I think, by the way. And then you can look at his YouTube site. And I looked at a couple of his YouTubes last night as I was considering possibly, fulfilling his request. It wasn't a request, it was a more of a, he wanted to present himself as a fighter, it was more of an aggressive type of a situation. And I thought to myself, well, I'm going to give him a chance. So I looked at some of his YouTube things, and I was thinking, okay, he talks a nasty line, but in fact, maybe he's not so bad. Not that I would object to being on somebody's show who has an opposing viewpoint of mine. That's not the point. But it was almost like he wanted a competition, which I'm still in for, but I wanted to be from a decent point of view. So I considered it, and I wrote back to him. Now, on my Twitter line, if you follow Twitter, I posted this morning, what happened. So I wrote him last night, and I basically said, okay, I've looked at you. It looks like you don't engage in juvenile rock throwing. I've looked at a couple of your videos, and it doesn't look like it's so bad, but it's not a thorough investigation at this point. So what I'm going to do over the next few days is I'm going to look at your YouTube site here, and if I decide that things look pretty decent, it'll be a go. Okay, basically that's what I said. But you're going to have to give me a little bit of time to look at this. So I did that at 6 p.m. Mountain Time last night, and I sent him the DM. I asked him to DM me, and I told him what my terms were at 6 p.m. He DM'd me at like 5:40, so I DM'd him back at 6 p.m., so about 20 minutes to a half an hour. So what happens? Well, I look at his Twitter line this morning, and it comes up on my notifications, and somebody that asked him if it was going to happen, he has to have a snide remark on there. Well, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. And I thought, this guy's an asshole. We probably could have had a good show, but I'm not going to give it to him. He can go stick his head up somebody else's ass, because he's not going to do it to me. All right? So Jeffrey, you blew your chance, buddy. Go cry to mommy. All right? Go cry to mommy. We could have had some interesting discussions, though. He's obviously anti-Christian at this point. Like I say, basically the religious, the regulated religions. Actually, religion means regulation. I don't know if you knew that or not. It actually means regulated. But at any rate, so he's not going to get his opportunity. So I put that up on Twitter with my DM answering him, so people, because he was trying to make it sound like I was afraid to come on his show. And that wasn't it at all. It's just that I'm not going to be blindsided by an idiot. So Jeffrey Doherty, you're publicly an idiot at this point for blowing your chance. Okay. That's really all I got this morning. We could talk about a lot of other things that are going on. Good morning, Nancy. Nice to see you. Man, you hit it out of the park yesterday. Man, you did. Of course, I don't think you ever don't hit it out of the park. Anyway, I could waste your time this morning, but there are probably many other things that you could do. If you have Twitter, go ahead and click on @Jonah of Nineveh's account, Michael. Give him some counts there. Yeah, I'll talk about Team 6 for a minute. SEAL Team 6. Anyway, give Michael some support. Even if you don't agree with his Catholicism and his strict interpretation of Catholicism, that's not the issue at this point. It's that they're trying to silence him and give him difficulty in making his opinions and his beliefs known. And certainly calling out the evil that's in the world. That needs to be done, and any effort to try to do that needs to be met with force on our side. And when I mean by force, of course, I mean that we don't put up with it. SEAL Team 6. Okay. I could pull in a lot of information here. I was one of the, I think it was Tony, yeah, Colonel Schaefer and I, when the Benghazi thing went down, we were some of the first, I think we were the first two, possibly Monograph as well, first two to point out that the official storyline was nonsense. Uh, then, of course, when the situation with the Bin Laden takedown occurred, and I'm not going to get into whether or not it was a body double or anything like that, like these people are doing now. I'm not saying that it isn't. There are those in the military who say that it's exactly the way the official story went down. I don't buy that either. Okay, the truth is going to be somewhere in between. But at any rate, when Bin Laden was taken out, I said, well, that's baloney, and it was also baloney that they buried him at sea. That's not according to Islamic religious custom, despite what the U.S. intelligence and DOD said. It just isn't. There were others that said quite opposite, so I'm not going to get into that argument. I wasn't there, but it doesn't make any sense to me, and I'll admit that. And then what happened was is that there was that situation with Extortion 17 where a large number of the SEAL Team 6 members were loaded on this, basically it's a Jolly Green Giant, which is just not normal procedure. And it was shot down or there was a bomb inside. We don't know which. There are people like Colonel Joe, GK Joe, at GK Joe on Twitter. Uh, you could look at what he says about it if you want to go to Twitter. There's also information from Rich Higgins, for instance, who would know quite a bit, being where he is. There's another one, Gigi Sims. I've never met Gigi. She and Rich Higgins got upset at me a little while back, but that's okay. But I've always respected Gigi and her ability to research with the knowledge that she has. So she has some good information out there as well. So anyway, with that background, we've long suspected that there was something else different to the SEAL Team 6 murder, I'll call it that, whether it was an act of war or not, on Extortion 17, and a horrendous situation. Now, those who actually went after Bin Laden and were on the team that did it all said that none of the actual team members that went into uh, the compound there where Osama bin Laden was reportedly hiding out, that none of them were on Extortion 17, that they're all still alive today. Well, I don't know. I couldn't attest to that one way or another, and I don't think it makes any difference. But the bottom line is this. What happened was that there's a former poker player, Anna Kate. I have nothing against Anna. I'll be honest. I don't know who's using her. Epoch Times apparently at this point, but I mean, she's not a trained reporter. Nothing wrong with that either. But she's trying to go out there and get information. She might be being used. Now let me stop right there again. I have a lot of respect for Millie Weaver. But when I saw Millie Weaver and who she was working with on this Spygate thing that she did, I became a little concerned because she was messing around with some people that I would not give any credit to. At least not. And a lot of you might feel differently, but I was very concerned about it. And I think Millie, whether wittingly or unwittingly, was taken advantage of. Okay. The same thing has happened to Anna Kate, I am fairly certain. I don't think it's fair that people are bringing up her past. She was a poker player. She became a minor celebrity, did very well, I guess, for herself. And one of the things that people have done to try to discredit her is to put pictures of her up that are somewhat provocative. But I'm not a prude, okay? I'm not saying that those things are necessarily good on a public forum, but I don't know where they got those pictures. I've never seen them before. But they put them out there with the idea of trying to discredit her effort at reporting. I don't think that was right to do that. If they can't win their argument based upon logic and reason, then why? Then that means that they have to resort to these provocative pictures, and I just think that's unfair. Just up front, so you know, I don't know Anna Kate. I've never followed her. I knew about her poker time and all that, but at any rate, so Anna Kate, I guess, working for the Epoch Times, decides that she's given this story to follow or whatever. And oh, by the way, she says that she's a Christian now. Well, you know how I feel about Christianity and sexuality. I don't think that they're not diametrically opposed at all, despite what most Christians say. So I don't look down on her, but she says she's changed her life. Well, good. So at any rate, she puts out this story. She trusts this guy, Parrott, I guess is his name, which is interesting because one of the last full colonels that I worked for in the Army, his name was Parrott. It's kind of interesting, you know. I don't know if that's the guy's real name or if that's his moniker or whatever. I don't know. But at any rate, so this guy, I guess, says he has several terabytes of information. And somehow, I don't know whether he makes, I haven't looked at the story that close, but either he or with the help of Anna Kate made contact with the Extortion 17 victims' family members, the soldiers who were on Extortion 17, their families. Well, I look at this as the same thing that they did to Pat Tillman's family. Pat Tillman was trying to get to the truth, and they stonewalled the Tillmans, told them lies and stonewalled them, and that's where it is to this day. Finally, the Tillman family just said, the government's all liars and deceivers, the generals are all evil men, we just accept what's happened, that they're evil and they did this, and we're just not going to worry about it anymore because they just harassed the hell out of them. Well, this Extortion 17 comes up, gee, this information is not new. What was presented, by and large, is nothing new. We knew about this years ago, okay? It's nothing new. But they bring it up now, supposedly this guy who has all this, top secret information, if he's CIA and he's doing this without their approval, first of all, I don't think he's CIA, but even if he were, and he's doing all of this Parrott guy, he wears a turban on his head made out of some kind of white stuff. Anyway, I don't care about his dress or his customs, whatever he wants to do. I think it's a little strange under the circumstances, but if he is former CIA, they're either pushing this, the CIA is, or he'd be dead. Do you understand what I'm telling you? So Anna Kate is being used like Millie Weaver was, is my estimation. Nothing against Anna. She's green. She's just trying to do the very best thing that she can. I don't hold anything against her for, as a matter of fact, I think she's a gorgeous lady. If I was a little younger, you know me. All right. That's really all I've got. Actually, there is something else that I'd like to do, but I think I'll make a whole show about it. Hey, Jesse, how you doing? Yeah, I saw your thing on CERN. Thank you so much for putting that up. Yeah, nastiness is going on there. There's no doubt about it. There are some really funky things going on at CERN. I think they're trying to do exactly what you're talking about. I think they've already had some minor success, in my opinion. And I think the AI is already, because these entities, they work in that realm, so it's very possible that the AI that we have functioning now is already inhabited by that thing. Yeah, I think. You already know how I feel about Trump's right eye and the whole Regeneron thing that he went through, and he probably had a I'm guessing with his energy that he has now, he probably had one of those blood transfusions with young blood. I'm not accusing him of it, but it just would go along with everything else that I feel about Trump at this point. And I think that there's circumstantial evidence and some direct evidence to point that Trump, of course, is not who he says he is to his supporters, and I've brought that out before. Yeah, on this other thing, though, thanks again, Jesse. On this other thing, yeah, the plasma transfusion, I think it's probably more than plasma. I think he got red blood cells. There's a thing when they take blood out of people, it's called a double red. They they take all the red blood cells out and they leave the plasma behind. Any of you who know about that, it's called double red, it really ups the oxygenation and the iron and all of that other stuff of the blood, and then they can actually use that straight instead of a blood plasma combination. But anyway, I'm not sure what they're doing, but his situation is certainly very questionable at this time. What he's really up to. I have no allegiance to Trump. None. Zero. Nada. I think I will wait for this other topic for later because it's going to be one of those that's kind of divisive in some ways. I think I'll wait unless somebody has a direct question. If I get questioned about this by someone, then I'll address it. And some of you might not think it's a big idea. It's nothing super secret or anything like that. It's just that I don't want to get people riled up off the subject from this morning. That's all. But it goes back to my little dissertation the other day on the meaning of the four-letter tetragrammaton. It kind of goes along with that because I've had some people ask some questions about celibacy and some other things and where that really came from. And you can argue about the Catholics pushing that at some point, or even early, what they purport to have come from early Christians. But I've studied that history in depth, and I do know what really happened. And it's not because the men had a dislike for women or thought that women were not for the life, is the way it was put, for instance. That's not it at all. It was something else entirely, but it's been pushed that way because of the common legends and the common dogmas and traditions. And so I'll talk about that in the next few days. Okay. Yeah, whole blood is rarely given. Yeah, unless they're doing something like this. I think there's something going. This is an entirely different new technology. It goes back thousands of years. We know about vampires. We know about, Vladimir the Impaler, for instance, right? And his wife. They used to kill young girls and drink their blood or bathe in it. So this stuff has been around, and there are other people that have researched this and talked about the sacrifices, the human sacrifices and all that. So it's been around for a long time. But now what they have is they have technology where they can do some other crazy things. Okay, that's all I've got. Thanks for coming, everybody. I'm going to go and get some things done. Go give Michael at Jonah of Nineveh on Twitter, if you have Twitter. Go give him some clicks, okay? Some likes, some clicks and retweets and all that stuff. I don't think he has a YouTube channel or anything like that. Or I'm not even sure if he has a blog. And I apologize for that if you're watching, Michael. By the way, I asked him if I could read his tweets. I didn't just put those up there without his consent. Okay, he said he would love it. Okay, so I did it. I want to give him some appreciation for sticking his neck out the way he has. Let me watch a couple more of these and see if anybody has a specific question. Oh, okay, there's a good one. No worshiping of Trump, but consider the alternative. There's no alternative. It doesn't matter. I mean, the idea that we're going to put off communism by keeping Trump in there is an illusion. He's already shown that he's not going down any other road but socialism. I laugh when I see him, when he gets up there in a speech and he says, "We will never be a socialist country." We're more socialist under him than any president prior to his presidency. Do you realize that? $6 trillion given out. This whole COVID thing, the lockdowns, and people say, well, that's not his fault. Yes, it is. He gave the guidelines. He and his task force gave the cover to the governors to do it. I've already talked about all that. No, Trump is not going to be the answer. He's there so that you'll gather around him and follow him straight into hell. That's what he's there for, because you wouldn't have followed Hillary. That was a given. You needed to have a sly, slippery, lying, deceiving serpent. And they've even admitted that he's that in Israel. Yeah, they have. And there's more information coming out about him being considered the Prince of Israel, the King of Israel. It's not the guy in the psych ward over there who's an Army IDF major in the reserves. They're trying to say that the rabbis are pushing him as the Messiah in the psych ward. Nah, that's a diversion. He's not. He doesn't fit the profile. Trump does. Could still be wrong, but he's at least got an antichrist spirit, and he's helping whatever's in that AI and what they're trying to. Whatever. He's helping the New World Order. He owes to the Rothschilds. He owes to Soros. Today, if he was serious about protecting the United States in this national emergency that we've got, he would put together a Delta Force team and go take out Soros, go take out Rothschilds, go take out all those people. All of them. Gates. Oh, Roy, he couldn't do that. He'd be committing suicide. He asked for the job. Yeah, Kissinger. Yeah. Says that Kissinger's his best friend. One of his best friends, that they've known each other for years. These scientists are the enemy of mankind. I do believe, and I mentioned this once before, that they're kind of being used. They think they're doing evil, but they might really be pushing something else that they're not aware of. And that could be. Same sort of thing that happened in the Garden of Eden. Stand fast. Okay, I'll go. Everybody have a wonderful day, okay? We'll see you later out here.